Hare Krishna. We'll start with the invocation prayers. The invocation prayers are on the introduction page of Bhagavad Gita. Follow along. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamlam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijan Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, thank you all for coming. We welcome Nisha. Welcome. So, even though you are joining partway through, please feel free to ask any and all questions. It's our open forum for everybody to ask any and all questions. So, before we continue, quick announcements that tomorrow, Sunday, March of 9th, here in Toronto, daylight time savings, the time changes. So from next week onwards, the class time will change for those in India and in Nepal. For here, devotees in Toronto and around area, the time will stay the same. And for those in India and Nepal, will become 1 hour earlier for you all. So just as today in India is around 8:15 p.m., it will become 7:15 p.m. from next week onwards. And in Nepal is around 8:30. The start time will become 7:30 p.m. onwards. The other announcement is that after finishing chapter 5 in our following class, as part of chapter 6, we'll have the bigger yoga ladder discussion. The yoga ladder class will run like a movie in a fast forward mode. So those of you who are in the process of getting caught up, I request you to please get caught up so that you get the most benefit from the yoga ladder class. The yoga ladder is essentially summary of the first 6 chapters. The third announcement that many of you are, or almost all of you have seen this error from not being able to play the Zoom recordings on your phone. So I got an email from Zoom company that they are in the process of fixing this glitch and they are expecting to release the patch around 16th of March so not too far. Hopefully that should resolve the issue around that time. Okay. So we are in the middle of chapter 5. So we have completed chapter 5 up to verse number 12. And from today we will start from verse 13, which is section 3. So section 3 is verses 13 to 16. Title is Relationship between soul, super soul, and nature. By fixing the mind on Paramatma, the karma yogi will attain liberation. So we discussed at our last class. So section 2 and section 3 and section 4 of this chapter 5 are linked. We discussed at our last class with this analogy that there are two phases. Section 2 talks about not getting bound, and section 3 talks about getting liberated. So the analogy discussed was that when a person is sick, it involves two parts or two steps. Part 1 or step 1 is to remove the sickness, means you prevent the aggravation. So removing sickness or preventing aggravation is not getting bound, equivalent to not getting bound in the material world. And the second step is to regain strength, so which is getting liberation. So by fixing the mind on Paramatma, one gets liberation. So recovery involves two steps. First is stop the negative, and then the next step is to bring out the positive. So part 1, or which we discussed in section 2 of chapter 5, is the Atma Gyan. Atma Gyan can help one to act in the material world in a way to prevent further bondage. And part 2, which is discussed in this section 3 onwards, is the Paramatma Gyan, the knowledge of the super soul, the knowledge of the supreme, which will lead to liberation. So Arjuna was focused on body, therefore Arjuna was bound. Krishna moved the focus onto the soul to remain unbound. And now Krishna will move the focus one step further onto Paramatma so as to get liberation. And Krishna will go on to state that, by the way, that Paramatma, I am that Paramatma. Let's start reading with verse number 13 translation. Abhishek Prabhu, 13 translation.
Hare Krishna. 5.13 translation. When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. Hare
The
Krishna.
body is described as a city of 9 gates. The soul lives in the city of 9 gates. So the 9 gates in the body are 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, 1 anus, and 1 genital. So these are the 9 gates in the body, or 9 holes in the body. Just as a city has various entrances, the soul interacts with external world through these 9 gates. And it is through these 9 gates, or through these 9 holes in the body, we become bound in the material world. Via knowledge acquiring senses, the sensory perception comes inside the body. So the knowledge acquiring senses, or the Gyan Indriyas, are eyes, ears, nose, skin, tongue. And then If I engage in physical sense enjoyment via the working senses, then the sensory actions go out and result is that I become bound. So the working senses are the voice, the legs, the hands, the anus, and the genitals. So as we have discussed in chapter 5, verse number 8 and 9, that let the necessary functions of the body happen. That let the body do whatever it's supposed to do without we getting entangled or emotionally involved in those activities. For example, when I'm walking, I have to look at the path. Now, this is the necessary seeing function that has to happen. The senses are coming in contact with sense objects. And beyond that, I will not get emotionally involved. Just as in a well-protected city of gates, the city will not allow anyone and everything to go in and out, because the interaction of the soul with the external world happens through these 9 gates of the body. Similarly, body is like a city. One has to regulate what goes in and what comes out. Then we can stay free from bondage. Everybody with me? Questions, comments, realizations? All right. Manish Prabhu, you now have the Bhagavad Gita, verse number 14, translation.
Hare Krishna. The embodied spirit, the master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of his action. All this enacted by the modes of material nature.
So if you look at the Sanskrit of verse number 14, in the second line, there's the word Prabhu. Srila Prabhupada has translated the word Prabhu as the master of the city or master of the body, means the individual soul. So we all call each other Prabhu, not just randomly, but comes directly from Bhagavad Gita, that how all souls are Prabhu. Therefore, we call each other as Prabhu. And the word Prabhu is contrasted in verse number 15 with the word Vibhu. So Vibhu refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's a question posted in the chat that why are females called Mataji? So should females be also called as Prabhu? So very good question. Now, one of a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, her name is Her Grace Lakshmi Moni Mataji. She was instrumental for setting up the Toronto temple, as well as she is part of the education ministry in Mayapur. Very knowledgeable and very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada. So she said this question that whether females or Vaishnavis should be called Prabhus or not. They never asked this question to Srila Prabhupada. And then later on, Acharyas have clarified that actually it applies to all. So many times you will notice, at least those of you who are in Toronto area, that when you are at temple and you meet His Grace Dharma Prana Prabhu, very easy to identify His Grace Dharma Prana Prabhu. He lives in the temple and is still handicapped. So he will call both Vaishnav as Prabhu and Mataji he will call as Mataji Prabhu. So all he will reference everyone as Prabhu. So everyone is okay to be called as Prabhu, but females just to identify, or Vaishnavis to identify as Vaishnavi, can call as Mataji or call them as Mataji Prabhu. So Mnima, does that answer the question?
Hare Krishna, yes, Prabhuji.
Very good. So the soul neither does anything nor induces others to do anything, because all these activities happens by swabhava, or one's material nature. The liberated soul does not do anything, does not make others to do things, and the result is that it does not become attached to any of these things. The soul is never the doer, but when soul thinks that I am the doer, then the soul also has to bear consequences. Now, a question may come up that Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight. How then is Arjuna not the doer? How is Krishna not making do things? The answer is Krishna is saying that Arjuna, your Kshatriya body will act according to its nature of fighting. And you cannot resist that nature of fighting. So don't identify with that nature. Don't identify yourself entirely as a Kshatriya body. So Arjuna as a soul is in a Kshatriya body, and Kshatriya body will work as a Kshatriya. If Arjuna tries to act as a sannyasi while being in a Kshatriya body, that will not work. Therefore, Krishna is saying that you just be detached, and when you stay detached, you will stay free from bondage. So just as for the context we have discussed, that when we say soul is not the doer, the understanding is that soul is not the only doer. For any activity to happen in the material world, there are 5 things that have to simultaneously happen together. The 5 things are Jiva desires, Ishvara sanctions, Prakriti executes, the senses to execute, and the endeavor itself. These 5 things have to happen together for anything in the material world to happen. So there's a question posted in the chat. In the analogy of the 9 gates, in the analogy of the 9 gates, the external world enters through the 9 gates, and what goes? I'm lost with the question. So what of the 9 gates external world enters through the 9 gates, and what goes out regarding the senses? So from the 9 gates, for example, seeing, you can see anything and everything in the material world. So that comes in. And then the soul desires that, okay, I want to enjoy. So for example, a male has attraction for a female. So that thing goes in through the eyes, the attraction. or the beauty of the opposite member. And then you want to enjoy, well, that goes out. So this is just an example. Similarly, ears, that you hear gossip, so that is coming in. And through your voice, you also engage in gossip. So these are entangling activities that I described. The same eyes, you can see the beautiful form of Shri Radha Krishna. And don't act anything to get entangled. You just do devotional service. So you are using your senses in devotional service, or use your ears to hear Krishna Katha. Does that answer, Abhishek Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
All right. Verse number 15, have undivided attention as a heavy conversation. Chaitanya Prabhu, verse number 15 translation.
Hare Krishna. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Hare Krishna.
So if you look at the Sanskrit, the word Vibhu is there. Prabhupada has translated Vibhu as Supreme Personality of Godhead and is contrasted with the word Prabhu from the previous verse. Prabhu was individual soul and Vibhu is Supreme Personality of Godhead. So verse number 14 states that soul is not the doer. Swabhava or material nature is executing. And verse number 15 states that Supreme Lord is not responsible for sinful or pious activities. Now question comes up, well, is anyone responsible? Is Supreme Lord responsible that I am born as a Shudra, therefore I am acting as a Shudra? But the Supreme Lord has made me Shudra. So is Supreme Lord responsible for the way I am made? The answer is what states in verse number 15, that Lord is not responsible for anyone's sinful or pious activities. Does anybody remember where we have discussed that Krishna is not discriminating, that Krishna is maker of the system, Krishna is not the doer? Anybody remembers?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Abhishek, Prabhu.
Is it the Varnashram verse?
Yeah.
Chaturvarnam.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Correct answer. So we have discussed this in 4.13, the Varnashram verse, that Krishna does not make anyone Shudra because Krishna dislikes the person. No. Krishna puts one in a Shudra body because of past karma and past inclination of that person. We have discussed this with an analogy that the school has the marking system of A, B, C, D. Could be more. I'm just giving an examples. That based on the grades, the student gets the division. Therefore, the school is not responsible of what grades the student gets. The student is responsible for his own actions. The school teaches you to choose the right answer. But the student has to endeavor to learn and choose the right answer. Based on the choice the student does, he gets the divisions according A, B, C, D, whatever he chooses. Therefore, Krishna is not responsible for the sinful and pious activities. So the division of society of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra is actually meant for cooperation. In this division, there is no one higher or lower. All are equal. One is given a Brahmana body or a Shudra body according to his inclination. So we have discussed this at great length in the Varnashram 4.13 verse, that what goes on specifically in India, where the Brahmanas treat themselves higher as compared to others. This is a misunderstanding. This is not how Krishna created the Varnashram system. No. In the Varnashram system, the division of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, everyone is identical. The division is just based on your karma, based on your inclination. Now, another question will come up that, so what is it that's making the living entity act in this way, in this wrong way? And this verse number 15 answers this in the third line of the Sanskrit. The translation of which is, Krishna says, the knowledge of the living entity is covered by ignorance. So, anybody remembers from our first Bhagavad Gita class, from the introduction class, what does conditioned soul mean? Anybody remembers?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Go ahead, Prabhu Prabhu.
Prabhuji, you described that conditioned soul means that the happiness is dependent on many conditions.
Very good. So soul covered by body and mind is a conditioned soul. The conditions soul's knowledge is covered by ignorance. The body is a trap of ignorance. So those of you who recite the Mahaprasade prayers for honoring Prasadam, there's this line in the Mahaprasade prayers, Sharira Avidya Jal, that the body is a trap of ignorance. And some of you from the other batches have listened to the Srimad Bhagavatam class from Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, Chapter 5, where it describes how our body is largely made out of ignorance. So we are in a trap of ignorance. So soul's happiness depends on so many conditions that are not in the control of the soul. This is a conditioned soul. And liberation means to become free from this conditioning, free from this contamination. You may still be in this material world, but you are liberated when you are not conditioned, when you are not under the control of material nature. Perfect example is our dear Srila Prabhupada. Many spiritual masters, all spiritual masters. So I described about that Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, Chapter 5 lecture, which describes primary creation, that how our body is largely made of ignorance. If anyone is interested, you can by all means get that lecture from me. Some of you have already heard that lecture from the other batches. Now, continuation of the question that we discussed, that so what is it that is making the living entity act in this ignorant ways? If soul is not the doer, if Supreme Personality of Godhead is not the doer, nature is what the doer is. So question is, where does this nature come from? And what is this nature? The answer is described in the fourth line of the Sanskrit of 5.15 verse, which says, by this covering of ignorance, the living entity gets deluded. Based on that delusion, the living entity acts in self-destructive ways. Self-destructive means soul acts in a way to go down to lower species of life from the human form of life. And this is described in this is described in Shishopanishad as Atmaha. Atmaha means killer of the soul. Now, soul actually cannot be killed. Then why is it saying Atmaha, killer of the soul? So it says killer of the soul because the soul's inclination for spirituality is completely destroyed, the result being the soul being almost eternally caught in the material world, the world of darkness. That is as good as the soul being killed. Therefore, the analogy is used, the Atma, killer of the soul. So for any action we discussed, that super soul sanctions what the soul desires and material nature executes. So the question is that if nature is doing everything, does that mean we are helpless puppets and not responsible at all? The answer is no, because material nature is executing the nature or the desires of the soul. So some of these desires have to be dovetailed and some of these desires have to be curtailed. We have also discussed the same point in 3.33 and 34, that what can be dovetailed are our varnic propensities, meaning the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahm. These varnic propensities, these inclinations, we have to dovetail in Krishna's service. And what has to be curtailed are our anarthas of lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, and illusion. And therefore, we have discussed this in 3.33, where Krishna says, what can repression accomplish? Means if you try to repress your varnic nature, it's impossible to repress your varnic nature. What you have to repress or what you have to curtail is the anarthas, the lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, and illusion. So at the sadhaka level, where we all are at our initial stages of spirituality, at least where I am, we have to know that I am a soul, I am not this body. And simultaneously, also know that my body has a particular varnic nature. Therefore, I have to act according to that varnic nature. And don't become dejected. And don't think I am superior. Both points are important, that don't become dejected and don't think I am superior by whatever I do with my body. To understand this with an example, if I claim that, look, I remember so many verses, so and so, the result is I am becoming the doer. 3.27 says, Karta aham iti manyate, that I think I am the doer. Or on the other hand, the Brahmana gets dejected because the Brahmana cannot remember verses and he thinks that I am not good. This is also illusion. So don't go on the two extremes. So each one of us have our own abilities. It's described in Sri Upanishad that all souls, which are infinite in number, all souls have a unique one-on-one relationship with Krishna. Means all of us have a unique ability. I should simply try to use my bodily abilities in Krishna's service for my spiritual advancement. This is how all of us should think. That whatever abilities I have, I will use it in Krishna's service. So I did a lot of talking for verse number 15. I'll soon pause for you all to ask questions. So let me first summarize. That the soul's knowledge is covered with ignorance, and ignorance makes us act, behave in destructive ways. So I described, anyone is interested to listen to Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5 class recording, which describes the primary creation of material world, that how our body, we are largely created out of ignorance, that the Bhagavatam describes a step-by-step process of creation, where our body is largely ignorance. So when we identify ourselves with those bodily nature behaviors, then we will become entangled. But when one understands, I am a soul and acts at the level of soul, acting as a soul means to serve Krishna, then there is no bondage. So the purport is very heavy. I've tried to describe key points. Read the purport by yourself later. Right now, I will pause for any questions, comments, realizations. There's a question posted in the chat. Question is, how can I understand these two things? One is, the soul is always active. And the second is, the embodied spirit or the soul does not create activities. The answer is, we have discussed this in 3.27, that where it says soul is not the doer, means soul is not the individual doer. So 3.27, where it says Vimudatma, Karta Aham iti manyate. Vimudatma means ignorant soul thinks I alone am the doer. That is ignorance. There are 5 things that have to happen simultaneously for any activity to happen. That is proper understanding, which is described in Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, should be verse number 30, around plus minus 1 verse. So the 5 things that have to happen together is soul desires, Ishvara sanctions, Prakriti executes with the senses and the endeavor itself. That is the liberated understanding. Does that answer the inquiry?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Everybody on the same page? Questions, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna.
Right.
So, so many of my desires are never fulfilled. So, how can we say that Lord is, fulfilling our desires? So, I mean, like I have tried many times and never achieved whatever I wanted. So,
Very good. So, this described in the cruel verse of Bhagavad Gita. The cruel verse of Bhagavad Gita is 18.61, which describes that you get what you deserve, not what you desire. So if my karmic credit allows me to get $1,000, but I am desiring $1 million, well, Krishna will say, well, you only have credit for $1,000. So you only deserve $1,000. Therefore, you will get $1,000. So this desire to have more than what I want is what causes us to remain bound in the material world. Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Kapila Siksha, Canto 3, the last part of Kapila Siksha, Lord Kapila is Krishna himself, who came to describe Sankhya philosophy at great length. Not just dry Sankhya, but devotional Sankhya. In the other batches, where Matan Prabhu, you are there, where we have read these verses. I think it's Canto 3, chapter 27. One of the verse, I don't remember the verse number, where we have read that we get according to our quota. Simply by endeavoring more, it is not possible for us to get more, say, opulences. No, we have a set quota, and we can only get that much. Matan Prabhu?
Okay, thank you.
Everybody on the same page? Questions, comments, realizations? So there's a question posted in the chat which says, is there Shudra caste only in this age? Shudra caste have been in existence in all ages. It's in the Kali Yuga that the Brahmanas have misidentified themselves to be as superior than others. Therefore, Shudras are considered lower, but this is a misunderstanding. Krishna did not create this Varnashram division as somebody higher or lower. No, all are equal. We discussed this in Varnashram verse 4.13, that if Brahmana does his Brahmanical activities properly in cooperation with others, then Brahmana achieves liberation. Similarly, if Shudra does his Shudra activities of serving the other Varnas properly, then from his Shudra body, he also gets liberation. There is no high or low. Somebody is just in a Brahmana body or somebody is in a Shudra body just based on the inclinations or the karmic credits of that person. Does that answer the inquiry?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
My question is, I was told like there is no Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishnavas in this age. All are Sudras.
So you
Is
are
that
correct. So you are correct that unless you know otherwise, in this age of Kali Yuga, everybody is born as a Shudra. But if you go through the initiation process from a bona fide spiritual master, then you can become a Brahmana and go on to become a Vaishnava. By birth, everybody is Shudra. That is true in this age of Kali Yuga. Padma Kumar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna?
Everybody on the same page, heavy conversation, ask questions. Okay. Our last class was also very heavy. This class also so far is heavy, and a little more heavier conversation is also coming up. Nisha, I am pretty sure you must be overwhelmed already. Nisha?
Yeah, I'm good so far.
Okay, very good. Okay, so verse number 15 says, ignorance of the souls is the cause. That ignorance covers the soul's knowledge. And in verse number 16 onwards, Krishna will state how to become free from this ignorance. Deep Prabhu, 16 translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. When, however, one is enlightened with knowledge by which the science is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Hare Krishna.
So by knowledge, ignorance can be removed. Knowledge arises like the sun and destroys darkness and illuminates that Krishna consciousness. So Krishna is moving the focus. Krishna is transitioning from Atma Gyan to Paramatma Gyan. So practicing Karma Yoga with detachment is at Atma Gyan level. So this is the part 1 of not aggravating the sickness. What is this sickness? My sickness is, I think I am this body, and everything linked with the body is also mine. This is I, me, mine sickness. Now, gradually, the knowledge awakens, resulting in inner illumination. And the result is, Jiva understands, I am not this body. I am a soul. Plus understands the presence of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the knowledge rises like the sun. In darkness, we may be able to see a little bit with a torch. But when the sun rises, everything is clear. Similarly, when we are practicing sadhana bhakti, we use scriptural knowledge to try to see. So the scriptural knowledge or the scriptures are like the torch. So we do need the torch of scriptures so that we can keep moving forward. As we become purified and advance spiritually, then the knowledge rises in our heart, just like the sun, making everything clear. So the question is, what is this darkness? It is the inner darkness, the lack of clarity. This is removed by knowledge. And we can start seeing our inner world. We start understanding, if I do so-and-so spiritual activity, it will increase my knowledge. Or if I do so-and-so material world sense gratification activity, it will increase my bondage. So knowledge awakens means one understands the presence of Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes the focus instead of the body. And how that increased focus happens, Krishna will explain in the next verse number 17. Everybody with me so far? Verse number 17 is heavy. All right. So verse number 17, again have undivided attention. I'm going to ask you a question in there. Dhara, verse number 17 translation.
Text 17. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. Hare Krishna.
So from here, section 4 starts, verses 17 to 26. Title is Fixing the Mind on Paramatma. Karma Yogi attains liberation. So Krishna will describe the result of focusing on Paramatma. Plus Krishna will give a process to reach the elevated stage. So understand what is chapter 5. So chapter 5 is the practice of Krishna consciousness, means the knowledge that we studied in chapter 4, the transcendental knowledge in chapter 4. How do you practice is described in chapter 5 so that you become elevated. Therefore, from this verse number 17 onwards, not 17, but 17, he will describe the situation, and in a couple of verses later, Krishna will describe the process of how to become elevated in Krishna consciousness. So in verse number 17, it describes that when one understands the presence of Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one fixes these 4 items on Krishna. One is intelligence, second is mind, third is faith, and fourth is refuge. Refuge means to make the absolute truth as my goal. When one fixes all these 4 items of intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge on the absolute truth, then one moves towards liberation. When knowledge awakens, it will wash away my darkness and my ignorance. Now, these 4 points are significant because my consciousness moves in these 4 lanes. So if these 4 lanes, or if these 4 points of intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are going in 4 different directions, is like I am driving a car with the 4 wheels going in 4 different directions, well, then I cannot move forward steadily. So Krishna has said this in Bhagavad Gita 2, chapter 2, verse number 41. Vyavasayatmika buddhi eke guru kandana, that intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. 2.41, Vyavasayatmika, the word Vyavasayatmika, that those who are resolute in purpose, their aim is one, just like business person is always wanting profit. Now I'm going to ask you a question very soon, so listen closely if you are on the same page like me. So these 4 items of intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge, they offer me directions as to how to become one-pointed, focused on Krishna consciousness. If I concentrate all these 4 on Krishna, then I can become one-pointed. So intelligence, first point, that by study, we understand that there must be and that there is some higher happiness than what we find in the material world. In the material world, there is no such thing as happiness to begin with. Material happiness is anyway temporary. and I am anyway not this body. Sense gratification will keep tempting us. But we have to turn to Krishna consciousness using our intelligence. So to challenge the promises of material sense gratification, we need intelligence from scriptures. From scriptures, we understand Krishna is the absolute truth. Krishna is the ultimate enjoyer, not me. Second item is mind. When we fix the mind, we get emotionally involved, and our involvement becomes much deeper. So, say a patient wants to get cured, and there's no treatment is working, and then they find some last resort treatment. So, using intelligence plus the mind means using emotion also. The patient and the family understand that they want to get cured and they want to try the treatment. But still, they don't have faith in the treatment. But they are still trying just to see what happens. This leads to the third item, faith. That I don't have faith in Krishna. That I am praying to Krishna so that I don't get troubles. So one may have intelligence. Mind may also be involved. But I don't have nishtha, means I don't have faith. And then refuge, the fourth item. Refuge means to make the absolute truth as my only goal. The example is people pray to Ganesh to remove obstacles for material benefits. So intelligence may be there, mind may be there, faith is there, but still refuge is not there because Krishna is not my goal. Therefore, people go to pray to Ganesh to remove material obstacles. So if one is too attached to material desires, then absolute truth is not my goal. This will become a challenge. So example is, say somebody got darshan of Shri Radha Krishna, and instead of asking for pure devotional service, the person is asking for material benedictions. Well, the result will be he's asking for broken pieces of glass and he will get entangled. Why did he ask for material benediction? Because absolute truth is not the goal. His goal or his refuge is material benedictions. If Krishna is the object of meditation, for better material things, means if I am meditating on Krishna to get better material opulences, well then I will go away from Krishna. Because Krishna is not my goal. Material things are my goal. For spiritual advancement, Krishna should be the object of meditation plus the goal of meditation. So when you have all these four things of intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge fixed on Krishna, the result is Krishna says, you will not return to this miserable material world. How this will happen? The answer is that with jnana, you will become completely purified. So we have discussed earlier that jnana or knowledge is not just theoretical knowledge. Rather, this is transformational. So one has to fix all these 4 items of intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge on Krishna, because these 4 items is through which our consciousness moves towards Krishna or away from Krishna. So here's a question for all of you. All of you will answer very soon. So hear this next conversation very closely, and you all answer whether you are on the same page like me or not. So in terms of determining whether these 4 items of intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are moving in one direction towards Krishna, or are these 4 moving in 4 different directions? You let me know as soon as I finish this talk of next 30 seconds. So without realizing, right now, I may be. So it's not maybe. I am pretty sure that I am going in 4 different directions. Example, I like Krishna consciousness and Bhagavad Gita philosophy. And simultaneously, I also think that the material advancement or the science advancement, oh, this is also nice. When I chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, oh, that is very nice. But when India wins cricket match, oh, I like that also. Means my mind gets involved in cricket match. So I have some faith in Krishna. But you know what? Material world is not so bad. What the result is? My faith is currently split. Meaning, my goal is not Krishna right now. Yes, I want to go back home to spiritual world. But you know what? Right now, I want to have a good time here also in the material world. Later, I will think of going back to the spiritual world. So what's happening with all this? These 4 lanes through which my consciousness moves, they are going in 4 different directions. Meaning I am driving a car wanting to go to Krishna, and the 4 wheels are going in 4 different directions. So I request all of you, how many of you are on the same page as me with the above discussion that I just had?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I am.
I am
Hare
too.
Krishna Prabhu, even I am also.
Hare Krishna, Yes, Prabhu, Prabhuji,
I am also.
Come on there.
Same for us.
Some of you still didn't answer. Are you moving at one point at attention? Vyavasayatmika buddhi. Eke Kuru Nandana verse wise. Nisha?
Yes.
Yes, as in for what?
Trying to understand and get there.
Okay, very good. Rest of you, some of you still didn't answer. Are you moving in one direction or in 4 directions? Your voice is very soft, Path Prabhu. We cannot hear you.
Just yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Actually, this is a very good knowledge. So I'm trying, still trying, not able to
All right.
drive in the same direction.
Okay, very good. Rest of you. So very important to understand where you are. So some of you still have not answered, and Krishna will soon give the process. So first you need to understand your position. Then only the solution will make sense. So if you are not sure on your position, well, the solution will not make sense. So still some of you didn't answer. Are you moving in 4 different directions or are you in one pointed attention? Okay. So Krishna, from verse number 20 onwards, Krishna will explain a process of how to become elevated, how to get these 4 points synchronized to move in one direction. And verse number 18 and 19, he will just continue the thought process. So in verse number 18 is a very well-known verse. Krishna will state the vision of the one who has all these 4 items of intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge fixed on Krishna. So this 5.18 is a very well-known verse, is known as a Samadarshina verse or equal vision verse. And Srila Prabhupada has quoted this quite often as well. Deepa, are you able to read 5.18 translation?
Yes, Prabhu. The humble sages, by virtue of knowledge, see the equal vision, a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater. Outcast. Outcast, yeah.
Right, so one who is learned or one who is having all these 4 points fixed on Krishna or fixed in having this one-pointed attention, then he will see everyone as equal. Whether it be a human, whether it be a dog, or whether it be a dog eater, doesn't matter, because he is going to see the Paramatma within everyone. So I have a visual on screen of the Samadarshina person, that this sage is Samadarshina. He's seeing the Paramatma within himself, as well as he's seeing the Paramatma in a cow, or a Brahmana is seeing the Paramatma, or a dog, or this elephant, or this Shudra, or dog eater, doesn't matter. He's equal. He has equal vision to everyone. So separation in terms of understanding their varnas is so that each can perform their respective duties according to the varna. That is okay. If somebody sees this as a Brahmana, he's only seeing the varnic nature, but he's actually seeing the soul and the Paramatma within. He's seeing this as a Shudra. He's only seeing the varnic nature. Or this as an animal is just the varnic nature. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport described that these differences of the body are meaningless from the point of the view of the learned transcendentalist, meaning from the point of view of one who is Samadarshina. The equal vision does not mean equal reciprocation. There has to be appropriate reciprocation. Example, so there is a pet cow. You can touch a pet cow. But the same reciprocation cannot happen with a tiger. Therefore, equal vision does not mean equal reciprocation. You still have to distinguish the reciprocation according to their individual nature. So cow you can pet. Tiger, you just stay far away and give them prasad from far distance. So this 5.18 verse can be shown to people who are concerned about conflicts in the world. When once we understand that we are all part of one big family, then the conflicts in the material world will decrease substantially. And in 5.19, Krishna will describe the result of one who has samadarshina, or one who has this equal vision. Gulshan, 5.19 translation.
Hare Krishna 5.19. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman.
Okay, very good. So those who have equal vision, they are liberated even while being in this material world. They have conquered the cycle of birth and death, means those whose minds are situated in Samya or Samadarshina. So soul is transcendental. Any event in the material world does not matter to the soul because it is temporary. Soul and material world don't match like oil and water. When soul is attached to these temporary things, is when everything in the material world will matter. When soul understands that nothing in the material world can make me happy because I am not material, but I am transcendental spirit soul. When a person starts seeing everything in the material world equally, then there is no attachment to matter. He may still be in the material world, but there is no excitement of changes happening in the material world. This is the liberated stage. And what is this bondage? Bondage is caused by my own desires to enjoy this world. Desires to enjoy because I think certain things in this world are enjoyable and certain things are not enjoyable. But in the Samadarshina or equanimity stage, I will not feel this enjoyable versus not enjoyable stage. This is the stage of liberation. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains what does flawless means. Flawless means one is not having any attachment nor aversion. Questions, comments, realizations? Okay. So
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna Prabhu.
yeah, Abhishek Prabhu, go ahead.
This is a general question about studying Bhagavad Gita, that many times these specific qualities or things are described in verses, like these 4 points were described, sometimes qualities of Brahmanas and so on are described. How, like, uh, I read those, but it doesn't strike me as something very specific the way you have explained. And look, so I tend to overlook them. Okay, this is just one quality mentioned. But I see that by your explanation that it obviously it has importance because Krishna is describing it. But I don't know how to.
Yeah, so there's a difference in terms of studying by yourself versus studying in a systematic way. And the next step will be to transform. So we are not just studying for the sake of studying to put a tick mark. No, we are here to practice, to live as a soul in this world. So we have taken baby steps. So there's a progression that has to happen. Abhishek Prabhu?
Finish, Gauri. Thank you.
All right. So Krishna has described the vision and the result of fixing the 4 items of intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge on Krishna with the Samadarshina verse. Now question becomes, how do I fix these 4 items? How do I become Samadarshina? Therefore, in this chapter 5, verses 20 to 29, Krishna describes the process. So these verses 20 to 29 are very heavy verses. These describe the characteristics possessed by a Siddha. Siddha means a purified person. And these verses 20 to 29 describe the practice of sadhaka, practice of a devotee for all these characteristics, all these qualities. These verses will describe a lot of qualities that we have to develop. So test these qualities to test your spiritual advancement. Now, under normal circumstances, when you test these qualities for your spiritual advancement, you will get 100%, you will tick mark 100%. Yes, 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 yes. I have these qualities. But when you are provoked, that's when you test these qualities, whether you have these qualities or not. That's your test of spiritual advancement. So these qualities described from verse number 20 onwards, these are the goals to achieve for all of us as sadhaka. These are the goals to move towards by all sadhakas, by all devotees. To measure your spiritual progress, these are the goals. So the essence of this section is to redirect our pleasure-seeking mentality from matter to spirit. Means move from outward enjoying mentality to inward, to enjoy at the level of soul within. And these 9 verses from 20 onwards are very heavy verses. We'll cover only 1 or 2 verses today, and rest will cover subsequent class. Mansi, verse number 20 translation.
Hare Krishna. Verse 20. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is already situated in the transcendence. Hare Krishna.
So, when one gets something that is dear to him, he still does not delight. Plus, when one gets something undesirable and he still does not become dejected, because the intelligence of the person is fixed. The person is not bewildered. Such a person knows Brahman and is situated in Brahman. So the word here is Brahman. Brahman means spirituality. Brahman is not referring to Brahmana. Brahmana is the priest, but here it says Brahman. Brahman means spiritual. So to be equipoised like this, amid happiness and distress, Krishna has talked about this theme repeatedly in Bhagavad Gita. So equipoise means transcendence, that you are above the modes of material nature. So people in different countries, they are crazy about sports. In India, it's cricket. Here in North America, it's baseball, hockey, or some other sports also. People are crazy about these sports. But when one is not interested in those sports, he is not emotionally involved in those sports. It does not matter to him whether someone wins or someone loses. So the winning team is jumping up and down, and the losing team is in misery. Same thing happens any sport you take. For example, tennis. The winning player is jumping up and down with his arms and running here and there, while the losing player is sitting silently dejected in his chair. So these are dualities that affect a person as long as one is attached. But if a person is not interested in those sports, then he is equipoised. The match will still happen. One side will win. But because the person is not emotionally involved, the person is not emotionally affected. When one is purified of material enjoying mentality, then one is not affected by the dualities. This is the test of spiritual advancement, and this is the test of authentic growth in spiritual life. I'll give you this sports and example that I gave you. I'll give you the example from my workplace. Probably many of you here have that same pool where many of my colleagues, they have some pool on some sports and who will win or what, I don't know what they do in that pool. And every morning when these sports matches are going on, every morning these colleagues will gather and they will talk about and laugh and sometimes cringe. And when there is this final match or potentially a knockout match, and they will all come to the office dressed in those sports attire. But I have no clue of that sport. So they are talking and jumping up and down and shout and talking at loud volume voice in the office. I have no clue, so I am not emotionally involved in their conversation. So when we are at the same level for all material enjoying mentalities or even any dualities, say something bad happens and we are not affected by dualities. So when something bad happens, I'm not affected. For both points, happiness and distress, I am not affected. The match will still happen, meaning the event in the material will still happen. That's your test of spiritual advancement. That's your authentic growth of spiritual life. Everybody on the same page? Anybody already at that high spiritual advancement of not being affected by dualities?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
These seem to very hard to adopt in life.
Yeah, so they are not hard to adopt. What is hard to adopt feels hard is because our attachment to body is very strong. Our enjoying mentality is very strong. So what you have to understand is, Are Baba, you are not this body. You are a soul. Nothing in this material world can make the soul happy. Gulshan?
Yes, Prabhuji.
And Gulshan, your point is correct. This is only the first verse that Krishna is talking. In the process, in the next two verses, we'll talk about how and why not to enjoy at the material world level. He will explain in 21 and 22. So hold your thought and it will come up. Rest of you on the same page?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So in verse number 21, how not to rejoice and how not to get agitated that Krishna described in verse number 20, 5.20. The answer to that on how not to rejoice and how not to get agitated, the answer is described in 5.21 that one should be detached from external things so as to become equipoised, and will answer exactly what Gulshan said. Seems difficult, but the answer is coming up in 21 and further in 22 and further verses also. Matan Prabhu, 21 translation.
Hare Krishna. 21. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme.
So external pleasure is the contact of senses with sense objects. Can be pleasurable or miserable. Either way, the person is detached. But if the person is detached from material happiness, well, but the nature of the soul is to be happy. So where does he go for happiness? Where he gets his happiness from? The answer is that one delights in the Atma within. Now, it is significant that Krishna has referred to the word enjoy twice in this 5.21 verse. It says Vindati means to enjoy and Asnute also means to enjoy. Means Krishna is giving a step-by-step process for us to follow to enjoy at the level of soul. First step is be detached from externals. Means don't get excited about sensual pleasures. Second step is seek happiness within. Means when one turns inwards and starts seeking happiness within, then the third step is concentrate on the Supreme. Means when we learn to concentrate on the Supreme, so if our vision is outwards, then we cannot focus inwards. And the fourth step is to relish imperishable happiness within, then we relish this imperishable happiness. So these four steps are basically the 4 lines of this 5.21 verse, the Sanskrit verse. So the first step, there is nothing great in this material world to experience. Therefore, I will not look outside. Gradually, we start inwards. We start seeking pleasure with our inner connection. As we keep experiencing inner happiness, we keep giving up outer happiness. And as we start giving up outer happiness, we start experiencing inner happiness. So here's a question for all of you. All of you try to answer. So which starts first? Do I first give up outer happiness and then experience inner happiness? Or do I first experience inner happiness and then give up outer happiness? Everybody wants to attempt?
It always starts within.
I'll start inner happiness first.
Okay, I already got different answers.
Prabhuji, both simultaneously, like reduce slowly the outer happiness.
Okay, I got 3 answers. First three are different answers. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhu simultaneously.
Yes,
Okay.
parallelly going on, Prabhuji.
Yes, simultaneously.
Simultaneous.
Simultaneously.
Prabhuji, first we try to sacrifice our outer happiness. Then only we can enjoy our inner.
Okay. How many want to know the answer? How many want to know the process to have the 4 lanes fixed? This is the process. How many of you want to know?
I want to know.
Yeah, no.
No problem.
I want to know, Prabhu.
So the answer is, which starts first? First comes hearing. And Krishna will describe this in Bhagavad Gita 7.1. 7.1 verse is essentially the basis of entire Krishna consciousness, where the verse will end with Tat Shrunu. Shrunu means to hear. So hearing comes first. I, of course, tricked you in my question, just so that somebody was sleeping, got woken up. Sorry for my approach. So first we hear and understand that how the outer happiness is temporary, plus the outer happiness brings only misery. On the other hand, inner happiness keeps growing and growing. All this begins by hearing. By hearing, we move away from our outer happiness, plus we try to move towards inner happiness. So some of you answered that both run simultaneously. Yes, you are correct that both should run simultaneously. But before both can run simultaneously, you need to hear from scriptures why outer happiness will always lead to misery, and how and why the inner happiness will always keep growing, and why outer happiness will lead to misery is coming up in the next 5.22 verse, a very important and heavy verse also. From hearing, we understand that when we get outer happiness, that actually this is so much misery, so much agitation. And at the end of the pleasure, the pleasure is actually so tiny and temporary, therefore it's not really worth it. Gradually, a person becomes detached. So the first step, we should always focus on hearing scriptures. If we are not hearing regularly, our Krishna consciousness will become weak. We will not be attentive in our chanting. We will not be serious towards our bhakti. Then we don't experience inner happiness. Naturally, we'll be dragged towards outer happiness and away from Krishna. Therefore, the starting point is hearing. Now I will describe this conversation towards the end of chapter 18, but I want to repeat this right now because this is very important and it will affect many of you. So I don't want to wait till the end of chapter 18. That from understanding Bhagavad Gita, our determination for bhakti is restored. We discussed in chapter 1 that our determination is lost by pratyaksha and anuman. And our determination can be restored by shabda. Shabda means to hear. So this regular hearing, regular devotee association is very important. So don't miss a class. And if you happen to miss a class, then listen to class recording very, very soon. And if you are traveling to, say, India or to your home country, be very, very diligent to hear and read Bhagavad Gita regularly, because when you are traveling, you are associating with materialistic people and you will very soon lose the determination for bhakti. Therefore, I did not want to wait till end of chapter 18. I will anyway repeat when we finish chapter 18. But in the context of what we are discussing about hearing, this hearing is very important. That if you are traveling to India or whatever your respective home country is, or if family members are traveling to where you are, be very diligent, be very cautious that you forcefully force yourself to hear scriptures. It's okay to miss a class because you have family around, as long as you listen to the class recording as soon as is possible. Everybody on the same page? Questions, comments, realizations? So this outer happiness leads to misery will Krishna describe in verse number 22. So this 5.22 is a very well-known verse, is a key verse for sense control, and Srila Prabhupada has quoted this verse quite often as well. Monica, are you able to read 5.22 translation?
Ji Prabhuji. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them.
By contact of senses with sense objects, meaning say tongue wants to eat delicious food, the hands want to touch soft objects, the eyes want to see something beautiful, and so on. So these sense pleasure is actually a source of misery because it is temporary. For every sense pleasure, first there is hankering. So the mind is tormenting us to get that pleasure. This itself is miserable. With any sense pleasure, there are three possibilities. First, it is unattainable. So our eyes see so many good-looking forms. No one can enjoy everything that the eyes see. Most pleasures that we look around are unattainable. These just create cravings in us. The second possibility is, even if they are attainable, they are not palatable. Meaning, after I get that particular sense enjoying object, I realize that this is not pleasurable at all. Means, we get it, but it does not live up to our expectation. And the third possibility is, even if it is palatable, it is not retainable. Meaning, how long can we retain and enjoy the most attractive sense objects? Our bodily capacity is limited. Our body itself is time bound. Meaning, all three ways, not attainable, not palatable, not retainable, either way we get misery. Even if there is some pleasure, after pleasure goes away, it leads to misery. Therefore, if you read the 5.22 Sanskrit, in the second line, the word is dukkha yoni. So yoni means womb and dukkha means misery. So sense pleasure is dukkha yoni. Sense pleasure is a womb of misery. Krishna is saying sense pleasure is pregnant with misery. So in the material world, pregnancy, at some point there will be a delivery. Similarly, sense pleasure leads to delivery of misery. It is going to happen. And this is such a delivery that there is no abortion possible. When one understands that when I engage in sense gratification, there will be misery sooner or later. Then the person would say, or actually should say, actually, you know what, I don't want to get involved in this wanting to be happy at all, because it is going to lead to misery. So this is the answer to 5.21. That one should give up outer pleasures. Why? Because it leads to misery. So let's read the purport for 5.22. It's a pretty heavy purport. So there's the, okay, let's see. Ritu will read the 5.22 purport, and you can skip the Sanskrit verses in the Sanskrit.
Hare Krishna. Material sense pleasures are due to the contact of the material senses, which are all temporary because of the body itself is temporary. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary. Knowing well the joys of transcendental pleasures, how can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasure? In the Padma Puran, it is said, the mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the absolute truth, and therefore the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Ram. My dear sons, there is no reason to labor very hard for sense pleasure, while in this human form of life, such pleasures are available to the stool eaters, hogs. Rather, you should undergo penances in this life by which your existence will be purified, and as a result, you will be able to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasures, which are the causes of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he is entrapped by material miseries. Hare Krishna.
Good. So this Srimad Bhagavatam verses 5.5.1. So there are these initial 5 or 6 verses. Rishabdev is speaking these verses to his 100 sons, and Srila Prabhupada has many lectures on these first few verses in Canto 5, chapter 5. That Rishabdev's teaching to his 100 sons is that don't waste human body in animalistic pleasures. These teachings are like a slap on the face for sense enjoyers. This sense pleasure is available even to animals, which are stool eaters, who live only for eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So why should humans work so hard for something that is available even to the animals? Instead, humans should do austerities to purify and thus experience unlimited spiritual happiness. It is only in the human form of life that spirituality is possible. Now, His Grace Chaitanya Chandas has a brilliant punchline for this 5.22 verse. The punchline is the false currency that keeps us trading in the stock exchange of illusion. And I'll replace these words and you will realize. So what's the punchline? The false currency that keeps us trading in the stock exchange of illusion. So sense gratification keeps us in material world forever and makes us suffer forever. So if the Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.1 verse slap on the face was not enough, shortly I will replace the words in this Chaitanya Chandasa's punchline phrase and will become an eye-opener. So instead of the word stock exchange, you can also use the example of children playing board games with false currency. So in that board game, which has a false currency, so here's a question for you all. So if the currency being traded on the exchange were false, what will happen? Somebody? So if the currency is false, where you are trading in the exchange, what will happen?
False happiness.
Okay. What else? The currency is false that you are having on the exchange. What will happen? Gulshan?
Prabhuji, your winning doesn't matter then.
Very good. Right? All trading would be useless. So everyone is a loser. Not just the losers are losers, but the so-called winners are also losers. So if we compare the material world to stock exchange and the money that we hope to gain here is the sense pleasure, but material sense pleasure is a false currency. So false not because pleasure does not exist, but false because pleasure does not deliver its promise. So false currency notes do exist, but the false currency notes do not deliver equivalent financial value. Similarly, sense pleasure never satisfy our heart. People run all day up and down for sense pleasures, but they all end up as losers, including the so-called winners. So I give you the punchline and I'll replace the words. So the false currency that keeps us trading in the stock exchange of illusion, and I'll replace it with the sense enjoyment, means the false currency that keeps us trading in the material world, means the stock exchange of illusion. So I'll repeat the statements again. The false currency that keeps us trading in the stock exchange of illusion, and you replace the words. The sense enjoyment means the false currency that keeps us trading in the material world, means the stock exchange of illusion. Was that Chaitanya Chandas's brilliance punchline for 5.22? Any questions, comments, realizations? Silence, I got silence.
Prabhuji, so do we have to focus more on our sadhana to be able to really adapt to all this?
So sadhana is important. Sadhana is the process. Sadhana means what? Sadhan. Sadhan means the means. And sadhya means goal. So sadhan or sadhana is the means to get to the goal. So yes, by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, by following the 4 regulative principles, these are our sadhan, these are our process to purify our enjoying mentality, to get out of bodily concept of life. By studying scriptures, by hearing, we understand that I am not this body. I am a soul. All this so-called enjoyment at the sense level in the material world is actually illusion. This is the false currency that keeps us trading in the stock exchange of illusion. Means the sense enjoyment keeps us trading in the material world. We have to get out of that. Gulshan?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
Everybody on the same page? Gulshan, does that answer your question? You said it seems difficult. So from 21 and 22, we understand in theory at least that sense pleasure is always miserable, that not attainable. Even if it is attainable, it is not palatable. Even if it is palatable, it is not attainable. Either way, sense pleasure is a womb of misery. Gulshan?
Yes, Prabhuji, I'll try to remember this line of stock exchange now. Because whenever some misery comes, I get bewildered.
Yeah, very good. Very good. So yeah, we are in a process of transformation, right? So we don't have to judge ourselves that, oh, I am doing something wrong. No, on a go forward basis, we try to rectify ourselves. Very good. All right, so I made a couple of announcements at the start. I will repeat those announcements. So tomorrow, March 9th, here in Toronto, the time changes because of daylight saving time change. So from next week, the class time will change. So those in India and Nepal, it will be 1 hour earlier for you from what it used to start. And for those here in Toronto and North America area time zone, it will be the same time. We will finish chapter 5 at our next class. And as part of chapter 6, the yoga ladder discussion will happen. It's coming up very, very soon. So I request those of you who are in the catch-up session to get caught up very, very soon. I have the chart, the yoga ladder chart on the screen, which looks like a very complex. We have 80 plus boxes to populate. The yoga ladder class will run like a movie in a fast forward mode. I will be sending you all this chart to print on a tabloid size page, 11 by 17, very big size page. And we will populate. It will literally run like a movie in a fast forward mode. And you all may say, well, why don't we split the yoga ladder class in 2 classes? Well, I've already done the yoga ladder class this way for all previous patches. And it has worked this way that I offload everything on the first class at a very fast pace. And the next class, or potentially 2 classes, some batches has been 2 classes also, is literally question and answers where you all will mandatorily ask at least 1 or more questions. So on the yoga ladder class, which is a summary of the first 6 chapters, many of you don't even know that there was a puzzle piece. All those puzzle pieces, known and unknown, will fall in their respective places. So therefore, those of you who are in that caught up sessions, please get caught up very, very soon. The yoga ladder class is coming up in the next 3 classes. So next class, we will finish chapter 5, and then 2 classes will be the base setting for chapter 6. And then on 5th of April will be the yoga ladder class. So get caught up before that as much as is possible for you. And the other announcement I made, that many of you are getting this error of not being able to play the Zoom recording on your phone. So it's a known glitch. We have demonstrated this to Zoom, and yesterday I got an email from Zoom company that they will release the patch around March 16. And once the update happens after that patch is released, then you should be able to play the recordings on your phone. In the interim, you have no choice but to download the recording on a computer or some other device than a phone and play. There's a glitch. It's a known glitch, and Zoom company is in the process of fixing it. We are just about at 11:45 time here in Toronto. Any questions, comments, realizations? Okay. Are we okay to stop here?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Prabhuji, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.